Hello, this is the RJP experience. We're going to do an update here on the consulate issue. There is some updates. We're going to go through a series of facts, chronology, for entertainment purposes, and to be taken with a grain of salt. Some personal opinions and the like. But I do want to clarify again that I will not be making serious legal recommendations or anything like that. It's just more things for everyone to understand and consider. Anyway, so moving over here, this is a computer I have available to me right now. We're going to enter my Gmail. So this is going to be factual evidence. We're going to find the original string between me and the consulate after my lawyer enacted the emergency procedures, okay? Most of it I don't really care to bring up, but I do want to notify you of the time. So that was June 30th by the time anything was enacted. And that it was for emergency reasons. There you go, it's a general overview. Official documentation from the lawyer enacting an emergency, okay? The rest of it, speculate whatever you think it is, it doesn't really matter. Fast forward, I have to make a complaint. They have to respond to me, right? So this is where this more important one that has 30 messages is in. It's not really 30, that's just because of some forwards and stuff. So they get back to me. These are the requirements for 11 years abroad, 11 years plus abroad. Pretty simple, straightforward stuff. They don't need too much. There's other things you can give in place of it, but yeah, pension plan, tax assessments, where do you live, lease, affidavit to where you are living at the time, along with the obvious financial constraints and etc. So basically they're just trying to build a timeline of where you are in some kind of, let's say, documented evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. So pretty straightforward, pretty easy. They weren't really too easy to deal with to try to do the additional documentation I want. That's the complaint I made. You don't have to really read all that. It's not vital, let's say. Complaints get made. Here they basically tried to do other emails that didn't go through for some reason, I'm not quite sure. Here I made essentially a response saying that the call didn't go according to plan. I was trying to do more. I actually live abroad since birth, etc., etc. Okay? Not extremely valuable, but please help me with that. Here's some additional things I can provide to you for the 11 years plus abroad. So I give them this full entourage of all the documents they want, in consideration to the fact that I also had the certificate before, so they can put that in addition to the certificate, right? Here they say they try to get back within 2 days. Here they pretty much clarify that they need the information that's missing from 1990 to 2009. I mean, pretty standard stuff so far. Here I explain my situation a little bit more in detail. And I provide some documentation, so the itinerary of when I came to Greece, my school documentation, you can see it is there. I will open it so it is visible. All right. This is going to be important later, but I just wanted to be shown that, I did send it to them. Okay. And then these two here are just the emails that I used to get the archived information that's in Canada. Over here, I got my dad's CPP stuff. Now this is where it's also important to point out that I can't really show this without his permission, but essentially he wasn't showing any pensionable earnings between 1994 and 2001, if I remember correctly. So they're basically marking that from 1993 in their calendar. So we'll say for all intents and purposes 1993 to 2001 or something like that. That's unaccounted for with just one simple document that was very difficult for him to get in his situation. They're basically saying that didn't come, that I have a residency history between 2011 2012 where I didn't give pension contributions, and here they said no evidence confirming elementary school in Canada, essentially, which is what I sent them. Now, if you continue further, I gave them the tax review for 11 and 13. They did have affidavits of where I was living, which is how I got my certificate the last time. And I asked them to confirm that they got it. They didn't get back to me. I make the complaint about the 2 business days. They get back to me. They ask for the conscription letter again, which is again illegal. Well, not illegal. They can technically require it, but it is not the official legal instruction on how you do voluntary submission into mandatory services. So it's a completely different requirement entirely, because you're voluntarily going for the mandated services. So it's an entirely different law system. This is where they make an error in judgment, let's say, contradictive to law. I think that's more appropriate. They tell you what it's required, yada 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 yada, application, documents, etc., etc., etc. They don't really say too much. They're saying they require T4 letters, blah blah blah. More things that aren't really kept by my dad in his situation. Okay, so aside from the school documents and other issues and stuff like that, which I clarified to them I've already sent. Give me a second here. Yeah, I have already requested the certificate abroad, blah, 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 blah. This is the Greek law that is outlining that they are in contradiction. I've also sent them an email that was forwarded to me from the Greek army and police for the army, outlining their contradiction and what my exact role is in my scenario. Okay, so how I'm supposed to comply to Greek law. I essentially said if what has been administered to them is not sufficient, then I ask for them to move to the 11-year for the sake of time constraints, and otherwise I will have no choice but to make a complaint for unprofessional conduct, right? I mean, it's not that I want to, I just kind of have to. And then here I essentially tell them that I'm going to re-upload all that information again, right? Because I don't want them to tell me I haven't done it and that it's not ease of access for them, etc., etc., etc. Okay, so I send all that stuff over. Basically proof of residence, all that kind of stuff. I'm at this point just trying to get the 6 month, right? It's a 6 month deployment or 11 years abroad plus. Yeah. Moving down this way, they're basically telling me that they can make the exception under the other certificate, if I remember correctly. Brought up some particular points about the old certificate, blah, 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 towards the 6 months. And to the other event, they're saying CPP plan doesn't work, statements, etc., and that I did not, again, give them information regarding my elementary school. So this is going to be a consistent topic that I'm really annoyed because they're not saying that it's insufficient. They're saying they have not received it or received anything that is considered documentary evidence, and that is really appalling because I've given them the only official documents that exist. Okay, so here, I effectively try to school them on the matter. Please forgive my grammar being failure, but basically, yes, I want to attend the rotation on time. Two, it's significantly less busy for both of us. That their arguments leave this conversation of being abroad for life unproductive at the moment, so I don't agree with them on that situation in particular, but I don't exactly want to fight over them over losing the certificate. So if you do produce the certificate, you are within the 50-day window, arguable 50-day window of the law here that's specified, which is effectively says under specific circumstances they have to do the services, if possible, as required by law, not required by their own requirements. In emergency circumstances within the 50-day period, it's arguable whether or not that would be 100% factually held against them, but it's questionable enough that they actually produced the certificate for me for the 11 months plus, 11 years plus abroad, right? And here I basically tell them we can continue the pursuit on the other one. Additionally, he should have been down there, but whatever. So I'm saying in good faith, like, let's just get this over with and then we can deal with the rest after it, and we can move forward. So here they ask for the amount and I present it to them. I thank them for that and show them that I sent them the money, okay? Now, what's important before I continue down this road is I have to show you something very interesting that continues down what I said in my previous one, that they're doing some shady business anyway. I can't explain why, but I do believe they are on vacation as speculation and for entertainment, and that they did have to move things around and etc., though they don't speak about it because legal reasoning or whatever. Here I was speaking with my wife. She was pointing out that lo and behold, they updated everything once I got my certificate, like immediately after, right? So what this basically is saying is that you can't edit your certificate anymore. But technically, when you're going for the 3-month from the 6-month, you're not editing it. You should, but with new law, I know it actually specifies you have to do a new application anyway. So kind of irrelevant. I think they were just watching their butts at this point, trying to make sure that I don't have a legal ground to stand on to say that you didn't complete the job correctly. But I already gave that to them, so whatever, it's in writing. I think it's just additional and interesting. So here I tried to send them an email and it didn't go through easily, but let's go over it. Basically, I'm telling them what the evidence does corroborate, and etc. So most of it doesn't really matter. As I understand it, you say I have not sent you my school documents. I will separate PDF documents, etc., so they can see it. I will highlight where it says grades are completed, etc. I also provide documentation evidence from my father, again, separately. It's really up to them whether or not they decide that's enough or not. But effectively, I'm moving forward with the next step now, after thanking them for everything else, right? And explaining my situation still needs me to proceed with the others, but I understand that now it'll be after September, October. So evidence of school will be seen, even if not acceptable to your standards. The main goal is that they can acknowledge the submission. Like, I think that's reasonable enough. Same with the evidence from my dad's situation and why his thing is a little bit more difficult. I asked they take that into consideration, that I do have the certificate they present me with now on top of additional documentation I will pass over to them, thank them in advance, etc. And and review of documentation again, basically explaining what this essentially means. So JPEG basically shows that along with other documentation, etc., 96 to 2015, I have had school essentially in Canada, along with affidavits and all the other stuff, whatever, you can basically determine I was in Canada until my 18th birthday, okay? Pretty straightforward. Review on my dad's situation. So we are offering them an affidavit from 89 to 92, but that was produced in 96, but basically verification firsthand from someone who went through their legal services in order to create an affidavit from my dad's family dynamic. Confirming that the dynamic not only is real, but like we were living in Canada to some degree. It's firsthand witnessing affidavit that I don't have to reproduce or find somebody else to fill in additionally. So it's additional information, right? He was in Canada between 95 to 98. That can be essentially corroborated through an official mortgage statement from RBC, because it not only says how much he was owing on it or whatever and how much they want paid, but who was living in the house at the time and the address, etc., etc. Okay, so he was present from 95 to 98 for sure with this documentation and what address he was part of. He was present for the children and solely based on court documentation that was provided from family court. This documentation ranges from 96 to 2001. There's complaints confirming the additional dynamic between 99 and 2001, basically leaving only 2 years in question, financially speaking, and that's 93, 94, and that's where they can have a debate if it's enough, essentially. And I'm openly admitting that that's a question for them. But my physical presence, however, is a non-issue with all the supporting documentation in the situation. So here you can see in my schooling, I've marked it out for them because they said I never sent it. That, in case their argument is that this wasn't official documentation or it doesn't say the things that are required, and so like I'm just providing like blank paperwork that means nothing. Schools attended below. This is the school boards in attendance. Teachers responsible for the student at that time. And over here you're going to find like first like the entry, year, month, day, etc. and year, month, day, and grade completed, essentially, upon completion. So that's my elementary. That goes right down here to where it says St. Martin, which is where I start my high school. And at that point, it gets moves on to the Catholic school board. So, that's a thing. But note, I also did adult school and had some other stuff to deal with. So this is once I get through adult school and I get my transcripts. It's got all the years provided here. So years completed and grades for those subjects. This is the course subject matter, definitions, course code, grades, and then credits. So, this is official documentation. Additionally, which they didn't have fight over, but I want to make a point, like that the same things that they're looking for, which is the years completed or whatever, can be shown between both things, and that I went from St. Martin to do these things, and they had more that showed St. Martin, but I have documentation extensive, okay? I had to put it out there because I didn't want them to say that I didn't have it. I tried to give a whole bunch of documentation, didn't let it go through, so I had to make a few more emails. Essentially, because the documentation didn't go through, I had to present a first round of evidence to them. This is what I sent to them and lawyers and stuff and whatever. But essentially, school chronology that came. Again, this is the actual untampered documentation. You can see very clearly I went to school during this time. This is the St. Martin transcript history here because they didn't have the last course that I needed for diploma later. Here you can see there's an additional photo when I got my diploma from class of 04 for elementary school, also documented. This is the adult school transcript, again, unedited, physically in hand diploma. Okay, so that's all covered. Other additional attachments, you know, finances, what have you. And also the burden of evidence, all those things that I described that we had before. So like the affidavit, family court, mortgage, even the divorce judgment from Supreme Court, all things that basically they refused to acknowledge was actually there. So, what does this mean? It basically means a couple things that you can take from it. One, first and foremost, if they refuse to acknowledge they received it, you have no way of proving that they did. Maybe I might recommend that you do what I did in those serious situations for JPEG now, but I didn't have the time to have the fight, so I want to make sure I accomplish the certificate first. Second, basically you can still get them to do their job if you need to and in an actual emergency. Debatable whether, again, the law was correct in my standing. I think it is, personally, and clearly I got the certificate. So I do want to note that technically the job can be done, and therefore evidence suggests that I am correct. But if you do what I did and you accept the lower end certificate, the Class B, that does get rid of the emergencies. Arguable what you can do next from that. If you want to know more, you could always comment below and subscribe and ask for my opinion on the next steps from there. But hopefully this helps somebody somewhere with the situation. Take care.